How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here, and today I'm going to be discussing massive news for the UFC. If you guys haven't seen already, the UFC is officially done with the ESPN deal. They have just signed a 7-year, $7.7 billion deal with Paramount Plus, or Paramount. I think it's going to be on Paramount Plus anyways. Starting in January of 2026. So ESPN Plus is no longer going to be with the UFC, which is kind of crazy because TKO, if you don't know, is like a brand partnership between the UFC and WWE. The WWE just signed with ESPN, so this is actually kind of a shocker. And even during all the brands that we thought that the UFC could go to, Paramount was never even brought up as an option. It was always either they re-sign with ESPN or they go somewhere like Netflix. But Paramount Plus is the new home of UFC come January of 2026. And there's a lot of, ideas coming up from people. So here is what we know now, as of now. This all could change very soon, but pay-per-views are over. They are now going to be called, well, they're not going to be called, but the name for them as of now is numbered events. The UFC announces new deal with Paramount, $7.7 billion for 7 years. If you don't know, that's $1.1 billion per year that Paramount is giving to the UFC. And Paramount honestly they've been signing some major players. Of course, they had a recent, bout with South Park, which is still kind of ongoing. That's a pretty tricky situation, but all numbered events will be on CBS for free. So you will not able. There are no longer pay-per-views come January of 2026. So what that means is, if you have a Paramount subscription, right, either the standard or premium, I don't know what the difference is between either of them, to be honest. I don't know which one I have. If you have a subscription to Paramount, you will be able to watch every UFC event for free, essentially. There are no longer pay-per-views, okay? It is just, if you have a subscription with Paramount, you will be able to watch the events. So pay-per-views are no longer a thing anymore. Starting in 2026, Paramount will exclusively distribute UFC's full slate of 13 numbered events. So come 2026, we will go back to the standard 13 events per year. I'm pretty sure that this year was the first one where we didn't have that. Actually, I think, it might have gone down to 13 because UFC 223 will be the last event of the year, I think, right? 322. I should have done this prior, but usually the UFC is a pay-per-view per month and then 2 months where they have 2 pay-per-views. So usually it's 14, but this year I think we actually dialed it back to 13, so I think that's going to be the official number now, either whether we go a month without a numbered event, as they're called now, under the Paramount era, or we'll just have only 1 month where there's 2 pay-per-views. Because usually June has 2 pay-per-views, and then they find another month, usually it's October, that has 2. And then 30 fight nights via its direct-to-consumer streaming platform, Paramount Plus. So this will all be available through Paramount Plus, with selected number of events to be simulcast on CBS. I imagine what that's doing is maybe what the ABC deal was under the ESPN era, where like certain cards were able to be viewed also on ABC, where it's like UFC Abu Dhabi, for example, was able to be watched on ABC. Cater versus Holloway was able to be watched on ABC. Something like that is what I imagine they mean by simulcast to CBS, because and this is all, I'm pretty sure, just US based, I think, because of course England also has, what's the streaming service there? Because they don't all have ESPN. What is it? It starts with a B. I forget, but anyways, this is huge. But with this comes some pros and cons that people are immediately bringing up. Some pros that I have seen we will be getting the same number of events. We will still be getting 43. Some years it was 44. This year I'm pretty sure we're getting 43. 13 pay-per-views this year and 30 fight nights as well. Of course, there are weeks that we take off. There's the traditional 3 off in November and then 2 off in January. And then throughout the year they take a number of some weeks off just because, they can't have an event that week. Pay-per-views are gone. $80 saved every month. Pay-per-views nowadays have skyrocketed in price. I remember when they were just $60, and then they went to $70, and then I think it was about 2 years ago that they shot all the way up to $80, which is stupid. Especially with the condition of some of these pay-per-views. You look at a UFC 312, the state of that pay-per-view, that was $80 fucking to pay for. If you didn't, legally ream it. I'm saying, switch the first letters of what I just said, and you'll get what I'm saying. Watch it on a Russian link if you get if you understand. For Francisco Prado versus Jake Matthews, Rodolfo Bellato versus Jimmy Crute, Taliesin Teixeira versus fucking who did he even fight? Justin Tafa on a fucking main card of a pay-per-view. That's fucking gross. All right, that is disturbing. Some of these pay-per-views recently have been pretty shit name-wise. And also this deal could help with fighter pay issues. If you don't understand, the difference between the ESPN deal and the Paramount deal is just the amount of money per year that is going to be sent to the UFC that will actually, what the deal is. Per year, ESPN was giving the UFC, I think, around roughly $245 million, I think was the figure. Under the Paramount deal, which is 7 years, so we will have 7 years of the Paramount era until whether they renew with Paramount or they go somewhere else, it depends on what the UFC is feeling, because ESPN had a very rough patch at the end of their relationship with the UFC, considering with certain pay-per-views not being able to be streamed. UFC 313 had a huge issue where many people couldn't actually watch the pay-per-view for the first 2 or 3 fights, meaning that some people missed out on Mauricio Ruffi's spinning wheel kick over Bobby Green, which, the UFC was not a huge fan of that because that was a huge moment in the year. It honestly started back at UFC 257 when Poirier and McGregor fought for the first time, and nobody could really watch the first 3 fights of that. The only 2 fights you were able to watch, well, at least on my end, I know some people were able to get them, and I know it was a huge issue back then, was people weren't able to get in until Chandler and Dan Hooker fought each other. So people missed like Magomedov Ankalaev versus, I forget who he fought on that card, I'll be honest, but I remember he fought there. So yeah, this is a huge deal. The UFC and ESPN, their relationship soured over the years. I could tell that they were not going to stick with ESPN, because ESPN has been, if you don't know, ESPN has just been like eliminating and deleting like every UFC fight that they used to have that you could watch on demand. They've just been like basically committing UFC like tape watching genocide. You can't even watch any of the fights anymore. The only one that, like the only pay-per-view that's over 3 months old that I think you can watch the highlights of, like the entire card, is UFC 309 when Jones and Stipe fought. For some reason, I don't know if it's because Dana was like, you were not gonna you're not gonna eliminate John Jones, dude. But back to the deal that could help with pay issues. Back to what I was saying, ESPN was only paying the UFC $240-something million per year. Paramount's giving them $1 billion per year. So that's a pretty significant fucking jump, if you don't know. Essentially, that's about 4 times the amount ESPN was giving. This could help boost original contracts, boost the buyability of stars and other promotions. This could help with just paying people who deserve to be paid. This could help with bonuses, additions to contracts, maybe incentives, finish bonuses per round, finish bonuses in general. If you get a knockout, you get paid this amount. If you get a submission, you get this amount. If you get win by decision, you get this slight amount. Bonuses could be upped. We could go back to $75,000 or $60,000 bonuses. Overall, all in all, I think that this could just help pay the fighters in general. So, yeah, these are 3 pros, and let's get to the cons. Now, I know what you're going to say. The first 2 on the cons are the exact same as the pros. We will be getting the same amount of events. This is a pro and a con in the same right. We might still be getting Apex slot cards that could just, fill month-to-month bases. A stretch that I remember is the build-up to UFC 300, if you guys remember that those 4 Fight Night cards in a row that were utter dog shit, dude. It was Vegas 88, Vegas 89, Atlantic City, and UFC Vegas 90. It was Tuivasa Tybura. That card was pretty shit. Namajunas versus Hebas. That card was pretty shit. Blanchfield Fior. That card was shit. And then Brennan Allen versus Chris Curtis 2. That card was pretty ass cheeks as well. And then that all led up into UFC 300. But we could still very well get 9 to 10 Apex cards. Now, to be fair to the UFC, so far in the year, there have only been 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109. There's only been 9 Apex cards so far. And they don't have another one scheduled as of yet. As of right now, there is no Apex card in the future scheduled that we know of. September's all booked up. October seems to be all booked up. And November is not all the way booked up, but we can kind of place where the cards are at. There's only 1 card scheduled for there. There's going to be 2. We know that the MSG card is always going to be in November. And then there's UFC Qatar. That is on November 22nd, I believe. They could put an Apex card there as well. Who fucking knows what they're going to do. But there, as of now, the rest of August, we only have 2 cards left. The 3 cards in September, the 4 cards in October. None of them are Apex related. They are either pay-per-views or they are fight nights in arenas. So that is pretty good. But we could still very well get 9 Apex cards. If I asked you to name every Apex card main event, I doubt you could do it this year because they're very unmemorable. I could do it because I know I can do it because I'm the fucking man. But that's besides the point. I'm him at the end of the day, guys. But yeah, we could still very well get a UFC Vegas fucking 95. Whatever Hebas versus, not Hebas, whatever fucking Janjidoba versus Lemos was. We could very well get a Tybura versus Spivak 2. We could still very well get cards like that with the fact that there are still the same amount of events. And also, people don't have to pay an extreme amount of, like, an ESPN Plus membership to, or, not membership, like, you get what I'm saying, to see the events. The next con, pay-per-views are gone, which was a pro, if you remember, $80 save, that's the pro side of it. The con side of this is that numbered cards, as they are called now, that was right, might not be as stacked. This is a problem that a lot of people have brought up as of now, since pay-per-views are no longer going to be, present. Dana White, Sean Shelby, and Hunter Campbell, they do not have to worry about pay-per-views being sold. They don't have to worry about that anymore. They don't have to worry about putting even 3 good fights. They don't really care about it now, let's be honest. They didn't care at the end of the ESPN deal. But going into Paramount, maybe they won't care even more. You know what I mean? They're like, well, it's a numbered card. We can put a title fight on there. And then it'll be wraps. We could have a Dwight Grant co-main event. Dwight Grant's not even in the UFC, but I'm pretty sure he was the co-main or a featured fight of a pay-per-view. I think it was a McGregor card. I think it was either 246 or 257. I forget, but they could very well just be like, yeah, fuck it. We'll do Justin Tafa versus we'll do Alvin Hines, Justin Tafa co-main event of UFC 330. You know what I mean? Like, they very well could do that in the fact that the pay-per-view model is no longer existent. But I do still have high hopes. I still do have high hopes. And we still got to wait till January for this deal to go with. So we have the rest of August. So we have UFC 319, UFC 320, UFC 321, UFC 322, and UFC 3... Hold up. UFC 319, October 320, 321, 322, 323. So we have until 323 in December, whether it's the 6th or the 13th. I think that's the 2 Saturdays that could be available for December this year. We still got to wait through all that. So we still have to do pay-per-views. We still got to pay $80. Yeah, it's the 6th and 13th. I'm a fucking genius. Anyways, we still got to wait for stuff like that to, pass by for the Paramount deal for us to cancel our ESPN Plus, subscriptions and, be able to watch cards for an appropriate price, if you get what I'm saying. So that is still somewhat of a con. It's more of just me being impatient with stuff like this. But this is a miraculous deal. All in all, in my opinion, this is fucking lit. I love this. I love the deal. I love the fact that it could help with fighter pay issues. I love the fact that we're keeping the same number of cards. Because I will admit, some of these cards that have happened recently, I haven't been the biggest fan of. There have been cards where I'm like, am I really going to sit through this and watch this? And then I sit through and watch it because I love watching the UFC. It's my favorite sport. Not my favorite. UFC is not a sport. It's my favorite promotion in the entire world. MMA is my favorite sport to watch, especially at the highest level. The only thing that could even come close is maybe college football. I love college football. I love football in general. I don't watch the NFL all that much, but I fucking love me some college football. I love watching it. So the fact that we're getting the same number of events, there are no longer pay-per-views being available, so we can save 80. Everybody, we can all save $80 per month, sometimes $160 per month, depending on if it's June or October. You know what I mean? So there is still stuff like that. But again, there are still the cons to look out for. There will be some cards that you look at it and you're like, I don't really know half of these people. I know everybody in the UFC because I'm UFC Thoughts. But, some cards I'm like, this guy's 0-3 in the UFC. Why is he on this card? Why is he still in the promotion? Lucas Dresky's getting another shot in the UFC. He's 2-7. What are we doing here? You know what I mean? I'll watch a card like that, and then I'll be like, that was a cool knockout. That was a cool knockout. That was pretty cool. So stuff like that still does happen. In other news, along with the Paramount deal, there was a fight that got announced. Charles Oliveira versus Rafael Fiziev. I thought I would put this on the tail end of this video to kind of just, if people watch the Paramount deal or whatever, they would also see my thoughts on this. I love this fight. UFC main event in UFC Rio de Janeiro. Charles Oliveira, the first time he's on a fight night since he fought Kevin Lee all the way back in 2020, which is fucking crazy that he's been the main event, co-main event, or just on UFC 300 when he wasn't a champion. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be it is what it is. Charles is a huge star, so it's going to be wild seeing him for free. You know what I mean? So, I like the fight. It is a little worrying considering the fact that he's taking it after not long after the Ilya Topuria KO, if you will. That is a little alarming in my opinion. But I think Rafael Fiziev's power is heavily overrated, and I don't really think he is that incredible as a fighter, if you will. He's taking Ignacio Bahamondes to a decision. He's getting very clearly outstruck by Justin Gaethje. He's taking RDA to round 5, this, that, and the other. He was getting beat on the feet by Mateusz Gamrot. You know what I mean? And also I think this is a huge step down in competition for Charles Oliveira at the end of the day. Going from Ilya Topuria to a Rafael Fiziev fighter. Even though Rafael Fiziev's got thud, he has not really shown insane power. He didn't really hurt Gaethje in their fight, which Gaethje I think is pretty chinny at the end of the day. When was the last time Rafael Fiziev even got a finish? Was it Brad Riddell? No, it was RDA. He finished RDA in round 5. My bad. But RDA seemingly gets finished by any good fighter that he fights, unless it's, Gamrot, doing his, signature stuff. I think there's going to be a lot of car crashes in this fight, meaning that they're going to just clash into one another. But Rafael doesn't have the speed and or power or technique of an Ilia Topuria, so it won't be as effective. I think the clinch work in this fight's going to be wild. Seeing Fiziev do his dirty boxing, using his knees, and seeing Oliveira use his elbows and knees on the feet using teep kicks. Rafael using his low kicks. Oliveira responding as well. Overall, all in all, I think Oliveira should beat Fiziev. I think he should. Now, going into this fight, I think we all will have to take into account the fact that Charles Oliveira was recently found deceased on June 28th or the morning of June 29th. That is something that will hang in the back of our heads and will hang in the back of Charles's head going into a fight like this against a guy that we've seen. He has overrated power, Fiziev, but his finishes do look gnarly, you know what I mean? Like, he looks like he hits hard. Fiziev has the build of somebody that would be like, he's shorter, stockier, he's got crazy Muay Thai skills, his striking looks really sharp, so you'd be like, holy shit, this guy must hit really fucking hard. It's also in Brazil, you know what I mean? That's going to be super fun to watch, see how Charles looks in Brazil. I don't even remember the last time that he fought in Brazil. You know what I mean? When was the last time Charles fought in Brazil? God, I don't even know. When was the last time that Charles Oliveira fought in Brazil? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. When was the last time? I don't know. I can't even think of it. I know he's like 6-0 in the UFC in Brazil, but I can't really think of one of his last fight there. It was definitely before 2020. It was definitely before 2019, to my knowledge. But yeah, I think it's a cool fight. I like it as a main event. You could put other stacked talent on there as well. You got some other really cool up-and-coming guys from Brazil. You got like a Myron Santos, a Felipe Lima. You got some other really cool guys. Marco Tulio, when he's recovered from his injury, could possibly make an appearance there. Who just made a call out that they want to fight at UFC Rio? Who was it? He just fought this weekend. He wants to fight in Brazil. Let me actually pull that card up to kind of jog my memory. UFC Vegas 109. He is Brazilian, right? The guy that called out that he wants to fight in Brazil. Oh yeah, John Matsumoto. John Matsumoto. You can put John Matsumoto on there. You got some fun prospects that you can throw on UFC Rio at the end of the day. Yeah, that's the video. What are your guys' thoughts on the Paramount deal? Are you excited for it? Are you nervous for it? Or do you have any pros and cons that you would like to add? Yeah, the ESPN era is officially over come January of 2026. Thoughts on Charles Oliveira versus Rafael Fiziev? I didn't really want to just do a solo video on Oliveira Fiziev. I wanted to do it, but then I kind of got, caught up in some stuff. And then the Paramount news came out, so I was like, I need to make a video about that. So I just thought I'd throw this on there. If you like the video, give it a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. Leave a comment down below what you guys want to see next. The next video will be UFC 319 picks and breakdown. I will get that out for you guys on Wednesday. I'm going to record that actually now because Tuesday, Wednesday I leave. I'm going to go on vacation for a little bit, so I will no longer be at my setup. I won't be able to record as I want to, so there's going to be that. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.